Hello, happy Tuesday. Welcome back to another episode of The Practice. This show is an unrehearsed look into my creative process. I'm Stuart. I'm a 3D artist, illustrator, designer, and your pal, and I'm excited and grateful to have you all back again this week. Big episode 172. The project for today and the question of the week sort of relate to one another. The question of the week is a simple one. Can you name any favorite childhood characters? You'll see that I've got some reference imagery pulled up here for Big Bird, who I could say was one of my favorite childhood characters. I loved Sesame Street. Jim Henson was a huge influence on me, not only in Sesame Street, but with the Muppets. And then as I got a little bit older, Labyrinth and the Dark Crystal is huge. I really enjoyed actually the new Dark Crystal series on Netflix. And I think subliminally or maybe overtly, the stuff we really gravitate towards as a kid, I think shows up later in our creative work. So, episode 172, question of the week. Can you name any favorite childhood characters? Would love to hear about those, and maybe I can draw some inspiration from them too, and maybe it will show a few in future episodes. Who knows? So, in any case, I think this will have some elements that are fairly straightforward and some that maybe are a little bit tricky. I'm not sure exactly how I'm going to handle the feathers and the tail just yet, but let's get in and start modeling. First, before we worry about feathers and tails and things like that, I really think we ought to start just like blocking basic shapes out. And I think part of the reason this character design is so successful is a lot of it is based on sort of basic shapes. So take a cone and a sphere, we're going to get most of the body here. So it's a good start. Round out the bottom, make it a little bit wider. And again, I'm not going to do a photoreal version, which is actually why I grabbed some of this cartoon Big Bird reference to inform some of the simplification we do here. Oops. We can use another cone to start getting this beak in shape. And I'm done. Just kidding. Right. It's a start. I probably want to come back and modify this a bit. Right. It's a nice little beak. Get some quick eyes in there. What's up, Marcus? Oh, you know what? I did. That project was completed, and if you go back to that website, go back to that video page, the description area has been updated with a link to that. Good question, and thanks for asking. So, James, thanks for tuning in. You're welcome. I think Big Bird is a little bit cross-eyed, isn't he? I think his body needs to be bigger. Big body bird. Yeah, let's get some legs going. Thanks, Marcus. Let me know if it loads and works okay on your computer. I'm assuming you're using the Chrome browser. What's up, Evelyn? I'm not sure what your question is, but the live video will remain on my page as a video you can watch again if you want to come back to it. I think that's what your question is. So let's see here. Let's continue with these legs, I guess. Excuse me. All right, that's about a big bird foot. Hey Zane, thanks for tuning in. Yeah, I suppose I could be better about like describing every little thing I'm doing. And in some episodes, I chat more than others. But to be honest, I don't view these as tutorials necessarily. You can follow along and learn what you can. But I do these videos for myself to just be accountable to a routine schedule and keep creating lots and lots of work and just kind of sharing the process as I go. So hopefully you can get some use of it from them. But if you have specific questions, I'd be glad to help. All right. All right, coming together. Hey Evelyn, no, unfortunately, I probably won't rig this character properly. I'll pose him, I think, just using the splines in his arm. But I don't think I'm going to get into full rigging today, because I'm not planning on animating the character. And it's a lot of work to rig. So I want to move the axis on this group to close to the shoulder, which will make it a bit easier to position. What I'm going to do is use this really great tool. Call this the right arm. Oops. Right arm, and then I'm going to go to character and mirror tool. With the right arm selected, I'm going to press mirror, and it didn't work. So I'm going to do, let's see, direction, origin. Maybe you got to mess with some of these. You know what? I'm going to keep it simple. I'm just going to make a copy. See if I can't reverse. So the coordinates. Just kind of reverse them. Okay. So that should be even. All right. I can use that. That is very down and dirty. Not best practices, really. But it's all right. So, let's see here. The thing we're really missing now is some kind of feathers. And I don't think I want to do that with actual like hair. I think that's going to get really intense. Well, you could get a cool effect, but I want to see if I can't take a simple shape and kind of clone it and get, you know, a solid sculpted sort of look. So I'm going to make a low poly capsule. Kind of shrink it along the z-axis. It's this sort of flattened pill shape. Then I'm going to clone that across the character here. Let's see what we get. So, cloner. And then we'll change this to an object mode. Well, what, Evelyn, what command is that? I'm not sure what F9 does. Maybe I know the key command. Core to active objects. Oh, is that like this? Yeah, F9. So just press this red button right here. That's why that was acting a little weird. I had the squishing of the capsule sort of in the wrong spot. I wanted that in the transform tab. So it's actually not so bad. I do think I want to randomize it a little bit more. So I'm going to add a randomizer, random effector. I don't want the position to change that much. I do want the scale to change a bit. And maybe we can mess with the rotation a little bit too. Nothing much, just to give it a little bit more randomness. I'm also going to throw in a push apart, which is going to help us not overlap so much. Let's turn the radius down on that. But part of the reason we've got so many patches and holes in the feathers here is because everything's sort of overlapping. But now I'm going to use this push apart and just set the radius to something like 12. We get more even coverage, and I think that's also going to allow us to come down a little bit in our count, which will make for a slightly more efficient model. Yeah, that is better. So I'm going to say body feathers, and then I'll probably make new ones again for the head. So let's actually just copy this, call it head feathers. And same thing, I'm just going to drag the head object in there. I love that look. Now the reason I made these separate is that way now I can shrink down. I think I want the feathers on the head to be just a little bit smaller. Certainly want fewer of them. I'm going to take a screenshot of this because I like this face so much right now. I think we can come down in size just to compensate for these feathers, which are making the head much larger. And we'll probably want to take beak, pull that forward. Same with the eyes. I think what I want to do actually here is, because he does have sort of a smooth spot, like a bald spot of the feathers, what I should probably do is take the head, make a copy. I'm going to put it in this group, alter that, and then I can delete these pixels, polygons rather. I think I need a few more. Now the feathers won't be generated there. It's getting kind of big birdie. What do you guys think? Now we just need the feathers on the arms. Should be a similar process. All right, let's see what's going on here. Get rid of that. What's up, Sandra? Is that a question? I'm not. There are probably smarter ways to do this, but since I'm not planning on moving these legs around, I'm just gonna make these rings that he has on his legs manually. Just kind of put the toruses there, which I'm sure is not the most efficient way to do it. I'm sure I could just grab these splines and clone them along or something like that, but I'm going to keep it simple for this go round. He has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of these rings, so 2, 3, 4. I was off with that first one. Should have been a little more careful. Actually, no, the first one looks pretty good. I guess it's just the angle of the leg. Oh, okay. I see what you're saying. So that's not for soft selection. This S is actually Magic Solo. It's a plugin that I've installed, which allows me to isolate objects in the viewport and object manager. What you can do though is you can go to Window, Customization, and you can do Customize Palettes. And then it brings up this dialog, and you can search through all of the different buttons and shortcuts and every little action that that Cinema 4D can take. You can grab it, for example, grow grass, or jiggle or joint, and you can just drag them up into the menu. So you can customize these menus in any way that you want. And then when you're done, just close this down, and it locks it in place. And then you want to go Window, Customization, you want to save your layout. So save layout as. And as you can see, I have Startup User. So I save it as my startup layer palette. Layout, yeah, startup user is my startup layout, so that every time I open up Cinema, this will be sort of the default that I'm shown. And the other thing I added is I added some spline conversion commands over here because I find that I'm constantly taking splines and wanting to make them have hard or soft interpolation. So there's another set of things here. You know, this is how it differs actually from your standard layout, right? Standard and then startup user. This is mine. The other thing I've done is I've taken the picture viewer and made a little tab here so that I can view renderings and not have another window sort of floating out in space, which can be a little bit annoying. So customize away, and the tools that you find that you're using frequently, make little shortcuts for yourself. Learn the key commands and or make buttons for yourself that you'll use. Powerful Cinema. All right, so we've been going for about an hour now. I think we're getting there. We're getting a decent little setup here. What I want to do is, except for the eyes, I want to take a lot of the specularity out of these. So that's good. I think we should also start adding some lighting. And I might just try and, well, let's see, maybe I'll just try to use an HDRI to light this. I'd like to make a sky, and then I go to Window, Content Browser, and I'm just going to grab one of these default Cinema ones because they usually work out pretty well. So let's try Sunny Park. Feels right. Then I'm going to throw a compositing tag on there real quick and turn off Scene by Camera so I can no longer see that guy. Oh, and of course we'll have to turn on global illumination. So that we can actually see the lighting effects from that HDRI. You got it, Sandro. Yeah, that's powerful stuff. Use it where you can. A little darker than I thought it might be. So let's add another light in, actually. Let's make it a spotlight. Big bird. It's getting there. I might try this. I'm not blown away actually by how this came out. So I'm going to throw this in a layer. And I'm going to choose just like a flat color, not an image. Shader, color. Let's get like an orangey yellow here. Just turn that down a little bit. So we're still getting some of the detail, but we're also lighting. We're also getting, we're getting this color, and we're modifying the matte, the HDRI matte, but we're still getting some of the variation in the image-based lighting that we get with the sky and the darker ground and details elsewhere. So that's cool, and I like using some of that yellow and orange in the lighting gives us some great color here. I think it's a little too orange. I'm going to make a quick cyc for this thing. It's a kind of a technique I use a lot when I'm trying to make just a simple flat color background. A lot of people will use like compositing tools, which is a great way to do it. Depending on the look you're after, that could be the way to go. What I like to do is just make a really simple spline. It's a right angle here, then hit chamfer so we can get a nice smooth transition between the two. And just throw that in a loft NURB and kind of copy it out. Put one over here. Copy it, put the other one over here. Now we got a big backdrop. And this is this type of shape is the backdrop that studio photographers will frequently use to get a nice seamless background. We'll call it a cyc or a cyclorama. What I'll do is I'll take another material and I'll modify the color just a little bit. Just a little bit of a more orangey color. I think it would be nice to have Big Bird on a bright yellowy orange background. Just go full in on the saturation of these colors here. And the shape of the beaks isn't quite right. So I'm going to make some cuts in this long flat plane underneath here to make the beak more modifiable. We're still missing a few little things. He's got these kind of flyaway, wispy feathers on his head, which I think I should make a go of modeling. Keeping him simple though. I think I'm just going to make him with a sweep. What's up, Zadi? All right. Let's try this out. So we got our 3 splines. Let's try and get them in the right spot. Nice. Thanks, Sadi. Well, I make a new video like this every Tuesday, pretty much every Tuesday. Which actually, I forgot to mention this in the beginning of the episode. Unfortunately, next Tuesday, being that it's Christmas Eve, I will not be making an episode. I'll be with my family, taking the rare day off. So thanks for your patience there. I'm sure you understand that at this time of year, people need to take a little break. I will be back the following week, which I think is New Year's Day. Since they're just simple little details, they're not going to be very big in the rendering. Plan is to just kind of make these feathers just using a simple spline. It's actually not so bad right there. This is sort of the shape they have. Nice. I wonder if I can, yeah, flip vertical. Nope. Horizontal. Yes. Useful. Never done that command before. It seemed logical that it would be there. Cool. Realistic renders without add-ons, I would say pay attention to gamma. I would say use image-based lighting like HDRIs, and use photographic textures. You can actually, there's a lot of really great, if you go into create, load material, You go through here, there's all these material presets, a lot of which are very, very realistic. You can also go to Window, Content Browser, and go in through these presets. You'll find all these folders named Materials. You can go in there and grab fairly realistic materials, which is sweet. Built right in. Okay, so check out these little head feathers. I'm not totally sold on this lighting, to be honest. I'm just going to rotate the sky a little bit just to see if we get a slightly different, portion of the image that's driving the globe light. Might alter the look of this just a little bit. And actually, that shift in the camera angle helped a bunch. I think the one last thing we're missing is this kind of big, fluffy tail. I think we should do that in a similar way to what we've done the body. I don't think I want to go about modeling individual feathers. But it's going to reorganize this a little bit. Okay, tail. So I'm going to grab in his body. Where's the body? Oh, right here. Okay, I'm just going to duplicate this by holding Command on a Mac as I rotate it. I'll just make a copy. So I'm just copying that cloner group again. Inside the cloner, under the object tag, I'm going to drop the tail in. Let's make some modifications. First of all, I think we've got way too many. We can get away with far fewer on the tail just because it's a smaller piece. We also want to change it to -Y so they're kind of oriented in that direction. The clones are all oriented in the direction we want. I also want to take this capsule and make it much bigger. The tail is kind of fluffy. Another thing is I think we can bump up the randomness of size. So I think there was a lot more variation in that in the tail than in other places. We could still have a few too many. Since the tail is bigger and fluffier, it's good to sort of exaggerate it and have fewer. Now I'm just going to fake it and kind of rotate the position just so we can get a little bit of it on, sort of in the shot here. Let's see what that does for us. Might be a bit too much tail. I kind of like that. All right, we're getting pretty close. And one other thing Big Bird has is a couple of sort of white feathers near his eyes. So those I think I'll just go in and place manually. Go to head feathers. Nope, not those ones. So I'm just using that same capsule shape. Just made a copy out of the cloners. I'm just going to put a few around. I think a lot of times it's good to mix cloners with details you sort of place by hand, because I mean, cloners can be great for coverage, but if you're really trying to make something look great, you'll probably want to control the position and size of your elements. Sometimes you can use the cloner to sort of fill out a space and then improve it or supplement it or fine-tune it by putting your own individual elements in there by hand. And if not by hand, then by using some other method. Maybe use constraint tags and sort of place them on the skin of an object. There's lots of ways to do things, but I think it's bad to rely solely on cloners and cinema doing compositional decisions for you. You really, I think you want to control at least some elements tightly. That's just my MO. All right, so let's see how that looks. I think the lighting's a little bit blown out here, the edge, so I just made that slightly darker, warmer color, and I brought the intensity down 10%. I also think I want to go to the shadows, turn the density down there a little bit. Maybe add some warmth to them, make them a little lighter. I think there is too much sort of definition between all of these individual feathers. But I like the white feathers in the head. That's a nice touch. I'm just going to try out a different camera angle quickly, see where that gets us. Yeah, and I think backing off that lighting just a little bit helped us a bunch. I like this new pose better too. It's more of a 3/4 view, and there's a little bit of interest from turning the head. You get a little bit more of the tail in there. I'm glad I tried that new angle. What I like is you get a slightly darker portion of the background, which allows you to have a bit of contrast between the sort of background color and this highlight on the yellow beak. That's working for me. Yeah, I'm digging this. I think this is really fun and not bad for just, you know, kind of a couple hours worth of work. Now, the one thing is actually, that's looking a little bit strange. Let's adjust that elbow just a bit so it doesn't look so thin and weird from the side. That silhouette wasn't quite working for me. I'm actually dragging it in the wrong direction. There we go. That's a little better. Now I got a thicker arm. The feathers look a lot better. Let's get that hand back in position. I know this is kind of janky. This is not the proper way to pose and set up a character, but I'm just making this one static illustration. I'm not going to be, you know, posing and animating this guy, so it's fine. All right, let's do one more test rendering. See what we get. I think he's slightly off center, so let's adjust that just a hair. Also, it's just dawning on me that you can see some feathers through his mouth, so I'm going to scoot that up, kind of alter the position a little bit, so we're not seeing as many feathers. I have a good open mouth picture of him. This should be fine. Whoops. Good old Big Bird. Yeah, arm's much better. All right, I think I'm gonna kick out, whoops, I didn't make it larger. I'm gonna kick out a final rendering. Let's go 1920. Square. Awesome. What a great character design Big Bird is. Great silhouette, very fun and fluffy and awesome for kids. And the amazing thing is not only is it a really fun character design, they had to work within the constraints of getting it to work with a puppeteer inside of it. It's actually kind of cool. This reference image I found shows you sort of a cutaway of how Big Bird sort of worked, and like the crazy pants the guy was wearing. Man, how exhausting it must be to hold your arm up like this and control the mouth. And it's funny that the puppeteer would use one arm with a string in between them to kind of control both arms of the puppet. It's really pretty interesting. It also explains why Big Bird had his one hand on his stomach so much. And that's when I think about Big Bird, that's the pose that I think of, is him with his one hand on his belly and the other hand sort of waving in the air. So that's sort of what drove the decision to use that pose here. Almost done rendering. Obviously, it's a stylized interpretation of Big Bird, not super realistic, but that's all right. So I'm going to throw it into Photoshop and do a little bit of quick color correction and retouching and call it a day. All right, there she is. There's still a little bit of weirdness going on in some of the feathers. There's some overlapping that's not ideal. I could retouch out some of these shapes. But for an hour and a half, 2 hour long exercise in paying homage to the late great Jim Henson and all of his fun character designs, I think this is pretty successful. Really fun exercise. Love Big Bird. Brings me back. So appreciate everyone tuning in and commenting and hanging out for another episode. If you like this, if you thought it was useful, if you think there's a buddy of yours that might get some value out of it, please don't hesitate to share. If you have any questions or further comments, don't hesitate to drop one in the comments below. Hit that thumbs up button and subscribe. It'd be really, really useful. Appreciate that. If you want to keep up with me and the work that I'm doing, you can find my website at diligence.studio, and you can find me on social media at DLGNCE. I'm most active on Instagram, but you can find me elsewhere. And like I said, no episode next week. Spending some time over Christmas with the fam, but I'll be back on New Year's Eve, with a hot new episode the week after. So until then, have an awesome holiday. Hope you and yours are well. Stay up, stay inspired, and I'll see you in a bit. Thanks a lot. Later.